Hi everyone, and welcome to my October wrap up. I read 9 books this month, which is by far my best month of the year. I think I've only come close to this once. I've definitely not had a great reading year, but this month has actually been really good. And I will say I have kind of cheated a little bit because I think 3 or 4 of these books are novellas, but I'm still counting them. I obviously have kind of purposefully read the novellas because I'm trying to reach my reading goal for the year. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about them. Also, sorry for the lighting. It's getting darker now, so I'm definitely going to have darker videos in general. So the first book I read in October, you would have seen in I think it was like a cozy reading vlog or just like an autumnal reading vlog, and it was Phantasma. This book I actually ended up rating 5 stars. You can obviously hear more of my thoughts as a whole if you read that vlog, but I just really enjoyed it. I found it really like the perfect amount of like gothic and dark, but also it was still fun. Like there was demons or devils, I always get it confused, but demons or devils in it. And hearing that, you'd obviously think they're a bit scary, like they're going to be just scary characters, but actually they were kind of fun. And like there was one in particular that really like was like a mood lifter for the book, and I just really liked it. I really liked the romance in it too. I like the like whole trial aspect. That's definitely a setting, or I don't know what you'd call it, a plot point in a book that I really enjoy anyway. But yeah, really enjoyed it. I started it in Salem, so I felt like that was very fitting for this book. If you know, you know. But I loved it. It definitely is a good atmospheric book for this time of year. So if you haven't read it yet, maybe read it, but maybe also save it for next October if you can. Then the next book I read, which I also really loved and was also in that vlog, was Falling Like Leaves. This is like a kind of young adult romance, I guess. I rated it 4.25 stars. I did really enjoy it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to love it because it's obviously young adult. As you get older, you do kind of lose that connection to young adult romances. But I did just really love it. I found both characters very likable. I liked that there was kind of other stories going on throughout the book. I really liked the small town. They had all these harvest festivals and like Halloween events. It was just so cute. I feel like it kind of just made me feel so cozy and stuff. I don't really know how to describe it, but it just made me happy because I think I said this in my blog. I feel like everyone can kind of relate to something in this book, I guess. Or like, I don't know, sometimes when I'm reading a young adult and it's like a romance or just like friends, there's just relationships in those books that I can relate to on some level. And it makes me like kind of emotional, I guess, or like reminiscing on my own like high school experience. And I did find it with this one. I just really enjoyed it and really recommend it to anyone that's interested in reading this kind of book. Then the next book I read, and I'm pretty sure I read this in a day or like 2 days, is Death Row by Frida McFadden. This is my first Frida McFadden book that I've, I guess, properly read. It's a novella, so that has an effect on it, but also the only other one I've read, and I didn't really class it as reading it, but I kind of did, is The Inmate. And that's a whole nother story. I don't need to get into it, but I know what happens in that book. Read Death Row, really enjoyed it. I would say I definitely wasn't expecting much from it because obviously I think it's like 50 pages, maybe 100 pages. I did like it though, and I definitely found it quite like, I don't know if intense is the right word, but I could really see what was going on in the book. The main character is basically on death row for the death of her husband, I'm pretty sure. So that's the like setting, and then she's obviously having dreams and like reminiscing on everything that happened. And the ending was really good. I really like the ending. I do think it was confusing, which is a lot of people's like main qualm with this book, is that the ending didn't really resolve the story or whether she was guilty or not, I guess. I kind of liked it because I feel like it did make sense to me. So I feel like maybe if you've read this one, maybe put your little thoughts on the ending in the comments because I'd be interested to see what people think. I have my own theory, but I obviously don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say it. But I thought it was clever, if it is what I think it is. So I liked it. Then the next book I read was Fearful by Lauren Roberts. This is the newest book in the Powerless series. I'm not gonna lie, I really felt very disappointed with this book, and I was really hoping I wouldn't because I feel like the series has kind of got, hate is a strong word, but we'll go with hate for the purpose of what I'm saying. I feel like the series has got a bit of hate, especially since Reckless, and people did feel like Fearless was a bit of a not needed book. I kind of agree in some aspects of that just because of obviously what happens in that book. And this one just felt like, I just felt like, why am I reading this? It doesn't add anything to the story. And I really hate being harsh because I really, really loved Powerless, the book, and I did really like Reckless, and I did also like Powerful as well. But this one in particular just felt so, it just didn't add anything to the story of Powerless. And honestly, like, I was kind of hoping that it would redeem a character if that was possible, and I don't think it did. And I just don't think, yeah, I just don't think it needed to happen. I had no connection to the new character that's introduced. She had like a cool storyline, but I just did not care for it. I feel like if that was just like a whole separate book that Lauren Roberts wrote and it was this main character, maybe I would be interested in it because it obviously would be more developed. But yeah, I rated it 2 stars. Yeah, I just really did not feel this was needed. I thought Fearless was the last book. So when this was announced, I was very confused. That's my fault. Sorry it's got so dark. I did try and light some candles, but I don't think it's really helped. We're just going to carry on. So the next book I read was Hot for Slayer, which is another novella. I've seen a lot of people reading this, so I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon. This was just like a very short kind of vampire romance. It was a vampire and then a vampire hunter, and they've kind of been meeting every like couple decades basically for their whole lifetime so far, and every time the hunter doesn't end up slaying the vampire. So it stems from that, but obviously it's a romance. I thought it was very cute. I didn't rate it because there wasn't really much to rate, but I did like it. I feel like it was just a good Halloweeny romance. Then I thought I would go back to the Phantasma world and I read Enchantra, which is obviously the second book. I would say with this one, I didn't love it as much as Phantasma, especially not at the start. I did find the start quite slow. But as the book went on, I feel like it really just like captured me. It's the same as Phantasma, to be honest. I just did not want to stop reading basically, and I really love that about these books, and I hope the next one's the same. I just really liked the like darkness of it. Obviously it's still gothic. This one's a bit different because she is in like a manor house basically, and she's trapped there. She has to complete these like challenges, I guess, with this family who are bound there for the rest of their lifetime. They're immortal, so obviously they're going to live for however long. I just really liked it. I really like the romance. I do still feel like, which I did say, I think, in the vlog that I read Phantasma in, I don't feel too connected to Genevieve as a character. So she's the female main character in Enchantra. I don't know what it is about her, but I just like she's fine, but I don't really care about her. But I do feel like I did enjoy this book and this romance more than I expected because of how I felt about her before. I also obviously liked all of the family. The love interest in this book, I think his name was Rowan. He has this whole family that's obviously doing these games for the rest of their life, and they all had very specific personalities, which I really liked. And I felt like the dad was such a cool character as well. I don't really know how to describe it, but I just really like them, and I really like the whole family aspect. I feel like she fit in really well. It was just a really good book, so obviously I recommend that one as well as Phantasma for next autumn. Then I read another novella which was in the same like mini series as Hot for Slayer, which was Falling. This one's by Christina Lauren, I'm pretty sure. I also like this one. I feel like with this one it very much felt like it was a novella. Like there wasn't really anything to the story. It was just they meet at this party, they realize stuff about each other, and that's it. But I didn't hate it. I like the idea of the male character because he is a fallen angel. The romance was fine, but to be honest, it just wasn't too much the story, but I would still say I enjoyed it. Then, when I was in Edinburgh, I picked up Carmilla, which is a classic. It is the book that inspired Dracula. So I have had my eye on this one for a while. Me and my friend, every time we go to Waterstones, we see it and we're like, oh, we want to read that. But when in Edinburgh, which is where she lives, we saw this edition with the red, and we were both just like, oh, we need to get it. And I didn't even know if it was going to fit in my bag to come home, but it did. Luckily it's very thin, and I read like half of it on the plane home and then the rest of it when I got back. I didn't rate it because I feel like with classics they are definitely harder to rate because they're written so differently to books of today. So it's hard to say like it kept me engaged or anything like that, because there definitely was points where I was really trying to like pay attention. And it wasn't because the words were hard. I would say the words were actually very easy to understand. It just didn't necessarily feel like anything was trying to keep my attention. It was just like a story, pretty much. I do like it, and it definitely reminds me of like, obviously I know it's classic, but I feel like back then they were kind of just trying to allude to like different things. Like they weren't trying to be too explicit with supernatural or like just things that were out of the ordinary. I think nowadays you can be a bit more blunt and open about those kind of things. So I did kind of like that, because it was not completely obvious that she was a vampire, even though we obviously know she's a vampire. I would say, obviously, it's a sapphic romance. I don't really think it's particularly romantic. Obviously, I like that aspect of it, and that's why I wanted to read it over Dracula, because it just sounds way more interesting to me, to be honest. But I wouldn't say it was particularly like, it definitely wasn't romance, and I'm not really sure if the feelings were returned, but I did like it still. I feel like that's how I feel about it. Obviously, again, it's an old book, it's a classic. I think it's from the 1800s, maybe earlier. They're not going to be very explicit with the fact that it's a sapphic romance, so that obviously also has an effect to it. But I did really like it, and I found it very like atmospheric and dark and very gothic. I just really enjoyed it. So I'd recommend, if, especially if you have ever thought about reading Dracula and been like, no, it's too long, maybe give this one a go. It's definitely made me interested to read Dracula, because obviously it inspired it, but I'm still not like gasping to read that one. And then the last book I read was The Six Deaths of the Saint, which is a novella by Alex E. Harrow. I think it's in a different series to the other one I was talking about, but it's another sort of like kind of Halloweeny series, I'm pretty sure. And this novella basically just followed this saint, I'm pretty sure, who, she kind of just like keeps reliving her life, and like in every storyline she understands more, I guess is the best way to put it. Like there's a specific character in the book where in the first book he's just like, she doesn't really know him, she doesn't really acknowledge him. By the middle she like knows his name, and then by her last lifetime there's a connection there. And I did like that, because that was obviously very interesting, and it seemed like she was aware of the fact that she was reliving the life by that point. I did find it a little bit confusing, as you can probably tell, and I'm not completely sure on what the ending was, because it kind of matched a lot of the other endings. There was a difference, but it kind of matched it. So yeah, I still liked it. I obviously didn't rate it because I don't really rate novellas, but if you're into that kind of thing, maybe give it a go. So yeah, those were the 9 books that I read. Obviously had a few novellas in there, and then these are the ones that I have to hand. If I was going to recommend one of these books to you just to read in general, it would definitely be Phantasma, because I really, really like that book. It's definitely my favourite from the month. I do also feel like Falling Like Leaves, if you're into that kind of romance, you would really enjoy. So those are like the two that I'd 100% recommend. I do think they're both quite like autumnal though, so maybe save them for next year unless you're still in the autumn spirit from November. But I know that for me, I'm kind of pushing away from that and going more into Christmas. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you like listening to the 9 books that I read. I'm definitely very happy with myself for boosting up my books towards my reading goal. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely, if you've read Death Row and you have any opinions on the end of that novella, let me know, because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.